Hey guys. This is part 17 of What If Naruto Was Azula's Bodyguard. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 48. Tense Talk and First Mission. Location, Konoha. The tensions between the five of them started to rise a bit as Naruto gritted his teeth while keeping his mouth closed at the sight of the people he didn't want to see anymore. Well? Are you going to answer my question or just stand there like a bunch of idiots? Now, is that any way to talk to your teammates, Naruto? The leader of the team asked with a chuckle in his voice. I don't see any of my teammates here, Hatake. His former sensei still looked the same. He still wore the blue shirt and pants uniform along with the green flak jacket and metal-plated gloves over his hands. He still wore the face mask and still had his headband covering his left eye. And his silver, spiky hair still defied gravity. And I haven't been your teammate for the last 3 years. There's no need to be rude. I'm not being rude. I'm telling the truth. We are your teammates, Dobe, said the dark, somewhat spiky-haired member of the team. He wore the same uniform as Kakashi as well as the flak jacket. He also wore a dark blue trench coat with pauldrons on the shoulders with the Uchiha crest emblazoned upon them. Emblazoned above the left breast pocket was another Uchiha crest that was surrounded by a black, four-pointed star. Tied to the waist of the coat was a sword, a chikuto if he had to be precise. Naruto snorted, showing his derision. The replacement says otherwise, Uchiha. Naruto, don't be like that, the female member of the team told him. She still had the pink hair and green eyes, he remembered. But she hadn't grown it out again. Instead, she had kept it short, letting it fall to her shoulders. She wore a red top that left the shoulders bare. She wore a pink apron skirt over a pair of black shorts. She also wore black gloves and pink elbow protectors, as well as black boots. The cloth of her headband was red and she wore it like a hairband. Be like what, Haruno? He asked her. If you thought that if I would come back willingly, and we'd become one happy team again, you thought wrong. Hell, we were barely a team to begin with. That's not true, she protested. Yes, it was. We had an Avenger who wouldn't let anyone in, a fangirl who would only pay attention to what said Avenger did or said, and a knuckled-headed idiotic moron who would charge into any situation headfirst with no thought whatsoever. Not to mention a sensei who was late to practically everything unless it concerned his life or the Ika series. The fourth member looked at Sasuke and Sakura. That actually pretty much sums up your track record, he remarked. He had black hair, which he kept short. His skin, however, was the kind of pasty white Naruto had only seen on Orochimaru. He briefly wondered if the two were related and mentally shuddered at the thought. He wore a shirt that exposed his midriff and wore a black jacket with red straps over it. The left sleeve was short, while the right sleeve was long. He wore black gloves that left the thumb and index finger exposed. He wore pants that were black, which was the same color of his sandals, with a shuriken holster attached. He wore his headband around his forehead and carried a tanto across his back. The blonde looked him over. So, who's my replacement? Hello, my name is Sai, he introduced himself with a smile. He knew what it was the second he saw it. Wipe that smile off your face. I don't need to see a fake one. You could tell it was a fake one? A blind person could tell it was a fake one. Hell, I know a blind person who would have known it was a fake one. Toph would have called him out on it too. I'll be sure to keep that in mind, Dickless. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. He turned his attention back to the others. So, let me guess, you're here to beg me to come back and stay in Konoha, is that it? It's your home, Naruto, Sakura told him. That hasn't been true for the last 3 years. Quite frankly, I would have liked to have kept it like that. So, you're just going to keep running away from us? Sasuke asked. If that's the case, you seem to be doing a bad job of it. For the record, I didn't come back to stay. I came back to do a job. Once that's done, my team and I are gone. We've already heard. You're going after the Akatsuki. What exactly makes you think you and your team can make a difference? You've never seen my friend Sokka when he gets an idea, Naruto replied with a smirk. I'd say he's the smartest of all of us, both in this team and in the one back in the bending countries. So you think that one person can make a difference? Sai asked. He is the idea guy in our group, he replied with nonchalance. That's more than I can say for any of the Konoha 11. Sakura didn't like what those words meant. What does that mean? You people couldn't grasp the fact that I did not want to come back. I had to reveal the fact I had control over the capital of one of the countries to make them leave, he explained. You didn't belong over there. You belonged with us, she insisted. His arms folded across his chest. If that was true, I wouldn't have been banished, would I? He asked. Don't try to use that one dope, Sasuke told him. The others already told you knew what the Hokage did. When they had learned of that, they had breathed a sigh of relief. At the time, they thought it would make things easier. But apparently it was the opposite. The fact is still the same. It was made clear to me that I was not wanted here, so I left. And we spent 3 years looking for you, we all did, Kakashi told him. So I was told, he scoffed. You guys really thought I would have hung around here? I knew you would go after me, so I went somewhere new. We looked everywhere for you. Obviously not, it took you people 3 years to find out where I was, and that was by luck. That doesn't matter anymore. What does matter is that you're here, Dobe, and you're staying, Sasuke declared. Only for the Akatsuki, unless you've forgotten about them already? Kami, take it, Naruto. We're trying to keep you safe. He shouted at the blonde, having lost his temper. The Akatsuki are looking for you. Of course they are. I ran into Itachi and Kisame a couple of months ago. He looked straight at Sasuke. Why exactly haven't you killed him? Are you just waiting for him to come to you or something? You ran into Itachi? Shouted both Sakura and Sasuke. Haven't you been paying attention? I did just say that. How are you still around? Sakura asked him. If Itachi had found him, he should have been captured. But he was right there in front of them. Your lack of faith is no surprise, he remarked. The sarcasm practically dripped off his words. Answer the question. He scowled. I am not a dog or a slave. Itachi and Kisame would have killed an entire city to capture you, Kakashi told him. Well, that would have happened. The problem was all 3 of us ended being caught by an insane Earth Kingdom colonel who wanted his army to raise a colony to the ground. So, we ended up triggering a battle, and in the midst of that, I got to see Kisame get graphic with his massacre. Good times, he said with a sarcastic chuckle. You call a massacre a good time? Sai asked with a puzzled look. Not even he would qualify a massacre as a good time. That was a joke. Besides, they left when we were done. I left them a note. You left them a note? Sasuke repeated, like he couldn't believe what he had just heard. I told them not to come after me. Otherwise, they'd be leaving the bending countries with only their heads. Granted, he might not have been able to follow through with that threat on his own, but Itachi and Kisame didn't show themselves after that. So he'd like to think that it worked. You threatened them? And I can back it up. With what? Yourself? No, with them, he said with a smirk as he pointed behind him. They looked past him. 4 other people, along with a wolf and some other kind of creature, were standing behind the memorial. Nice job getting everyone, Azula. It wasn't that hard, she replied as they walked up to his side. You okay, Naruto? June asked from aside Nyla. Yeah, I'm fine, June, the blonde told her. I've just been having a conversation with some people. What in the name of Kami is that thing? Sakura asked as she looked at Nyla. June frowned at those words. This happens to be my Shurshu, his name is Nyla. Call it a thing one more time and I will sick him on you. As entertaining as that sounds, try to keep the ugly creature under control, June, Naruto told her. Nyla hissed at him when he heard the words ugly creature. Yes, I was talking about you, you blind mole. What are you going to do about it? The Shurshu hissed again, eager to attack. Will the 2 of you knock it off? The bounty hunter told them with an annoyed frown. Fine. He looked at the Shurshu. But this argument is far from over. Nyla hissed in agreement. Akela just rolled his eyes at the whole thing. Sokka didn't care either. He was more focused on something more important. Are they who I think they are? He asked Naruto, looking at the team of shinobi standing before them. Naruto nodded once. Yep, pretty much. How do you know who they are? I asked Asuma and his team back in Ba Sing Se. I guess I missed that one. He briefly wondered when the tribesmen had asked Asuma and his team during the time in Ba Sing Se. What do they want? The usual crap. They want me to stay here, They're trying to protect me, they've been trying to find me, etc., he said in an offhand manner, waving his hand in the air. Well, to be fair to them, they were probably the ones who looked for you the most. I'd figured. It's too bad they didn't come over when the others did. I would have had fun with them. What do you mean by that? Suki asked. I would have actually spent time playing around with them. You know, taunting them, giving them false information so they could run off and leave you guys alone in a heartbeat, that kind of thing. I think you've been hanging around Jiraiya too long, Sokka commented. You say that like it's a bad thing. Are you planning to peep on naked women? He glared at the tribesman. You want to repeat that? He asked with a threatening voice. He might act like the super pervert sometimes, but he would never go to that level. Sokka just grinned. Nope, glad to know you're still you. Thank you ever so much. Who are these people, Naruto? Kakashi asked, losing any playful tone left in his voice. Now he sounded like an actual shinobi. What? The others didn't tell you who they were? The blonde asked, casting a look over at him. Answer the question, Dobe, Sasuke told him, his hand already going for his chikuto. Isn't it obvious? These are my teammates. We're your teammates, Sakura protested. You've been replaced, he replied. As I've told you all too many times already. And who exactly are these for? June asked, looking at them. Sokka apparently knows them, but the rest of us do not. In that case, meet Team Kakashi, the last group of the Konoha 11. He cast a glance at the team. Although, I think it's the Konoha 12 now, considering they have a replacement. I have never been a part of the group, Sai told him. That position was for you and you alone. Well, congratulations. You're now an official member. Somehow, I don't think the others are going to appreciate that, Azula remarked. If anything, they were going to hate it. You know me, I live to disappoint them. Anyway, I'm done here. Let's head back. He started to walk away and the rest of his team followed. We're not done here, Naruto, Sakura shouted. As a matter of fact, we are, he told her without even looking at her. If you take one more step, You'll what? Beat me into a bloody pulp like when we were younger? Azula went rimrod stiff when she heard that, her mind going back to the boiling rock. 3 years ago, there was this girl I liked. He gave a bitter chuckle. Like is probably too easy a word. I had a huge crush on her. But she thought I was an idiot and kept hitting me every time I came near her. Who was it? She demanded in a growl. Relax, you haven't met her. You know the funny thing? I kept coming back and she still kept punching my lights out. That and she had eyes for someone else. When I came here, I had brought the memories of her rejections with me. You were the one who hit Naruto? She all but snarled at the pink-haired shinobi, turning to face her. You're the one who would beat him bloody any time he came near you. She began to generate lightning, pointing it at Sakura. But before she could discharge it, Naruto grabbed her hand and redirected the lightning upwards into the sky. Azula, calm down, he ordered her, seeing the enraged look on her face. Why should I? She wanted to hurt the girl in front of her. Use your brain. If you attack them right now, we'll have an incident on our hands. And that's enough to have either one of the councils put bounties on our heads. If they make it large enough and give our whereabouts, it'll be safe to say that the bounty hunters will come after us even if we're in the bending countries. Oh, that'll be fun, June remarked sarcastically. Instead of being the chaser, I'll end up being the one chased. Azula began to calm down as she thought the facts through. Alright, I get it, she told Naruto. Are you calm? He asked her. Yeah, I am. He let go of her and faced Team Kakashi. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to leave and you're not going to do anything to stop us, he told the 4 of them. What's stopping us? Sasuke demanded. The fact that I can signal your fangirls to this location and watch as they tried to capture you, he said with a straight face. The Uchiha went still with a small look of horror. You're bluffing. You have no way of signaling them. You do realize that your fangirls know how to operate a wireless radio, right? It's just a matter of finding the correct signal. He pulled out a radio to emphasize his point. Bye. He turned around and walked away, the other members of his team following him. Team Kakashi just watched as they left. Well, that went well, Sai commented. Nobody felt like telling him to shut up. The next morning, as the sun rose, Naruto rose as well. He got out of the bed and put on workout clothes. He made his way to the front door and was about to open it when a voice spoke from behind him. Are you thinking of leaving without me? Azula asked. He turned to face her. She was wearing black sweatpants and a black workout bra, which, in his humble opinion, worked on her. I'd figured you'd want a few more minutes of sleep, he replied. I'm a firebender. When the sun rises, so do we. True, but even firebenders get a few extra minutes of sleep. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. She had been rising with the sun ever since she had discovered that she was a firebender, following a tradition that stretched back to ancient times. All right, I get it. Ladies first, he told her as the door opened. She threw him a look but walked through all the same. He followed behind her. You ready? Of course I am. Good. The two made their way down the staircase and onto the street. There were very few people out there with them, so they were effectively alone. After a few stretches, they started jogging. They ran in silence for the first couple of miles. You're not going to ask why I got mad last night, are you? Asked Azula, breaking the silence. No, I think I know why, he replied as they jogged down the empty streets. In fact, the only other people who were up this early were the shopkeepers, and they were handling their shops. You remembered what I told you at Boiling Rock, right? Yeah, I did. She wasn't proud of the fact that she did now. Are you going to do that every time you see her? If she did, he knew it was going to cause problems. You don't need to worry, Naruto. I won't do anything unless she does. So instead of throwing the first punch, you'll just throw the second one, that about it? He asked. All she did was smile. You know me all too well. Besides, if she throws the first punch, we won't get into trouble. Don't be so sure about that. The civilian council might have entirely new members, but I'm willing to bet that there are a few of them who would use that potential incident to get us into trouble, Naruto warned. Plus, the last time we all came here to the village, Aang nearly pissed himself from seeing the regular inhabitants glare at us. That's true. Agni, save us from politicians, she intoned jokily. Kami too, he replied, making the both of them laugh. They fell silent as they kept jogging through the village streets. They finally stopped in front of the Hokage building, panting lightly. They turned around and looked back at where they came. Kick it up a notch? She nodded, eager for the challenge. They ran in different directions and began to climb up the building in front of them. Once they had gotten to the top, they took off across the rooftops. Naruto had always enjoyed doing this as a kid, running across the rooftops. He had found even more enjoyable when he didn't use his chakra. He had continued to do even after he came to the bending countries and had even got Azula to join him. He told her it was a form of training. They raced across the rooftops, ducking under obstacles and leaping across building. Adrenaline was pumping hard through their bodies. To them, the jog was just a warm-up. This was the real workout. Soon, things began to blur together, but they didn't care. All that mattered to them was the thrill of the run, the urge to win, and the rooftops in front of them. They landed in front of the door to the house, ending the race in a draw. How many draws are we at now? Azula asked as Naruto opened the door. Do you want an honest answer? Please. I lost count about a year ago. He focused on the priorities as they walked inside. You can go wash up first, he told her. How gracious of you, she remarked drily before she headed for the bathroom. He went over to kitchen sink to wash the sweat off his face when he heard her call out. Naruto? How does this thing work? Right, forget that she's never seen a shower before, he thought to himself before heading to the bathroom. He found her standing in front of the shower. It's not that hard, Azula, he told her. You just do this. He grasped the handle and pulled it upwards. You should wait until the water gets to the right temperature before getting in. The water came on, hitting him full on. Ah, damn it. He muttered to himself as he stood back up. You got it? He asked her. Oh yes, I do, she answered in a half-strangled voice, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. He went completely still. He had heard that tone of voice before. It was the same tone of voice any woman got when they saw him wet. He had also just been hit by a full blast of water coming out of the showerhead, so his hair was now all but dripping. Azula, close your eyes, he ordered. She did as she was told, albeit with a little reluctance. I'm going to walk out of this room. Once you hear the door close, count slowly to 5 and then open your eyes. He made his way out of the room and closed the door. He walked back to the living room and after quickly drying his head off, took out his book along with his notes on them. He worked on them as he heard the shower go. It lasted a while, until he heard the shower turn off and the bathroom door open. He heard Azula walked out of the bathroom and back to the bedroom. Then all was silent in the house. The silence ended when Azula, fully clothed, walked back into the living room. "Sorry about that, Naruto," she said, a bit embarrassed. She knew what happened when he got wet and yet was about to do the same thing every other girl did when they saw it. "You don't need to apologize. But you do realize now why I had those deadbolt locks installed, right?" he asked. "Yes, I do. It's just that, you know. You were dripping water?" he finished for her, making her nod. "Honestly, I still don't see why women get like that whenever that happens. I am not that good looking." That's a lie, she thought to herself. It's amazing, after all the attention he's gotten from women and fangirls, he still believes that. He closed the book and put the notes away. "I'll go clean up." He locked the door behind him after walking in. Soon, he underneath the shower as water pounded down on him. "You know, if that had been one of your fangirls, I would have been laughing," the QB stated. "That would not be a funny thing," he replied silently. "For me it would. It would have been immensely funny, and quite entertaining to watch too. Of course. His Bijou seemed to get a lot of kicks out of watching things like that happen to him. So, why exactly haven't you taken her yet?" "What are you talking about? Taken who? Don't play dumb with me, Gaki. Why haven't you taken Azula to bed yet?" "In case you haven't noticed, we've been to bed, several times actually." "What did I just say about playing dumb?" the fox asked him, sounding a little annoyed now. "Look, Fox. Just because I have a girlfriend, doesn't mean we have to have sex every 5 minutes. I did not say anything about every 5 minutes. I mean, what's the big deal? You're not a virgin." If he had been walking, that would have been the moment he would trip over nothing. "How the hell do you know that?" he demanded. "Remember where I live," the QB said with complete and utter sarcasm. "So, you were watching the entire time?" "No, I was asleep. I just looked through your memories the next day." "Cammy, was I surprised at what I saw?" "You're not going to tell anyone about that." It may have been a while since then, but he still felt embarrassed that the fox knew about it. "Who the hell would I tell? I'm stuck inside you." He forced himself to calm down. "Well, if that's the case. Back to my original question, why haven't you slept with Azula?" "I'm only 16, QB. I don't need to go that far right away with her." "Which is ironic, considering how old you were when you—" "We are not talking about that." "Ah. There is no need to shout." "Then don't bring that up." All right, just answer my question already." "I already did." The rest of the shower was spent in silence. Once he was done, he left and quickly changed into his clothes. Azula was sitting on the couch when he walked back into the living room. "Did you eat already?" "Why would I when I have a very good chef at my disposal?" she asked with a small amount of humor. He smiled at her and gave a formal half-bow. "Your wish is my command, princess." Breakfast didn't take long to make. The two of them sat down to eat, talking about random things. When they were done, Naruto washed and Azula put away. Just as they were finishing up, someone knocked on the door. "It's opened," Naruto called out. The door opened and Jiraiya stepped through. "Is it time to start already?" the blonde asked him as he finished the last dish. He nodded. "Tsunade wants you and your team in her office. I'm to escort you two there. Despite what you may think Sensei, I do know my way to the Hokage office." "I know you do, but I want to talk to you on the way there." "Of course you do." Both he and Azula walked out the front door and Jiraiya followed them. "So, what do you want to talk about?" he asked the Toad Sage as they started down the street, lighting a cigarette. "I heard you ran into Team Kakashi last night," Jiraiya remarked. "How'd you hear about that?" "I have my sources." That was cryptic. "How did it go?" "How do you think it went?" the blonde asked back. "It was the same thing with the other teams. They want me to come back, they're trying to protect me, blah, blah, etc., etc. Be nice, Naruto." That was being nice. "How did Azula know to get the other members of your team?" That was something that baffled him a little. "That would be tellin'," Naruto said with a smirk. "Tell," he ordered. "No, I don't think I will." "Would you like another training session?" He held his hands up in mock surrender. Alright, fine. Last night, Azula asked if she wanted me to have her make dinner. So? That doesn't tell me anything. There's a reason why we try to stop Azula from cooking, or at the least, find some good cover. Do you want me to send you flying? Azula threatened, fist covered in blue fire. Would you relax? He asked her. It's the truth and we both know it. Besides, you like what I cook for you. Flatter, she replied, but with a small smile. The fist went down, the fire extinguished. So, you knew something was up once she offered to cook? Jiraiya asked him. Yep, once that was in place, we started to say something one thing, but mean another. For example, last night I asked her if she remembered where the clones put the pots and other whatnot. She told me that the pots were to her left, the pans were to her right, and the other stuff was in the shelf above her. In other words, Azula continued, there was one person outside the house on my left, one on my right, and the rest were directly in front of me, on the side of the house I was looking at. Huh, that's fairly impressive, the Toad Sage admitted. If he had time, maybe he could devise a new cryptic language for the village from it. Thank you, they said together. Don't do that. But still, you'll have to at least get along with your former teammates, he told Naruto. I know that. Why do you think I stopped Azula from shooting a bolt of lightning through Sakura? Yeah, I heard about that. He looked at Azula. Why would you try to fry Sakura? You've never even met the woman. He asked as they entered the Hokage building. They knew the way to Tsunade's office, so no chance of getting lost. No, but Naruto told me about what she did to him, she answered with a small growl. Well, you're going to have to get along with each other. Why? Naruto asked as they stood outside the door to her office. He opened the door and saw Tsunade sitting at her desk. Sokka, Akela, Suki, and Jun were there, as well as Team Kakashi. If this wasn't planned before last night, one of you two have lost a few IQ points, he accused both Jiraiya and Tsunade. Just get in here, Gaki, Tsunade told him. Now, what exactly is your name for your team? We seriously have to come up with one? He asked as they entered. Seeing an ashtray on the desk, he walked forward and stubbed the cigarette out in it. It's for the mission record. Should I have you known as Team Avatar? No, the idiot isn't here. Who are you talking about? The last time she checked, there wasn't an idiot with them when they were here. Ain, he said with exasperation. If somebody didn't keep an eye on him, he would be doing something stupid all the time. That's a little mean, Naruto, Suki accused him. It's still the truth. Besides, you guys didn't exactly stop him on a few of those occasions. Just call us Team Paragon. All four of us are in it, Jun told the Hokage. Good name, Sokka complimented her. I try. Alright then, the five of you are now Team Paragon, Tsunade declared, writing it down on one of the pieces of papers on her desk. What's the mission? Naruto asked, becoming all business. Do you remember your mission to the Land of Snow while you were still with Team Kakashi? Yes, we escorted Lady Koiki Kazuhana back to her homeland to film a movie and helped her overthrow her uncle in the process. Busy day? Asked Sokka. Just a little bit, he answered. The weather there was almost as cold as the Northern Water Tribe capital though. There is reason to believe there is more to Doto's revolt than originally believed, Jiraiya told them. That got the blonde's attention. According to what little information we know, Tsunade explained, the Akatsuki somehow funded the revolt and kept a low-level presence there. And this Doto didn't care about them? Suki asked. If she had done something like, which she wouldn't, she would have kept an eye on them. My uncle couldn't have cared if they had run the country for him. A woman's voice said from behind. He only cared on finding my father's treasure. Naruto turned to face the newcomer. Lady Koiki, he greeted the daimyo standing in the door formally, bowing his head. Hello again, Naruto, she greeted in return, along with a warm smile. He raised his head. How did the movie turn out? Quite well, as did the next one. He would have asked her what she meant, had he not remembered what script she had in her hands the last time he saw her. You mean you actually perform in that movie? Yes, she did, Kakashi said in a semi-dreamy voice. She did a magnificent job. Shut up, you perverted Cyclops, the blonde told him. I wasn't talking to you. There's no need to be rude, Naruto, Koiki told him. It wasn't that bad. I hope you'll forgive me if I have a hard time believing that. Why do you have a hard time believing it, Gaki? Jiraiya asked. He looked him straight in the eye. She starred in a movie that was based on one of your books. It would have been a miracle if they managed to make it something other than a porno. Are you disrespecting my work? Of course I am. You're a super pervert, why would I respect your work? Tsunade cleared her voice, stopping the fight. As entertaining as this conversation is, can we please get back to the mission briefing? Fine, what are we going to be doing? Naruto asked her. The two teams here are to escort Lady Koike to the capital of the Land of Fire and protect her. What's she doing in the capital? Azula asked. I'm finalizing a new trade agreement with the Fire Daimyo, Koike answered her. It will allow the trade system between our countries to grow, while also evening out the exchange rate. It'll also allow Konoha shinobi to infiltrate Hokage and take control, Jiraiya continued. Let me guess, that's where the Akatsuki had the low-level presence? Sasuke asked. It made sense to him to have it there. It was the shinobi village of the country. It's a possibility, Tsunade answered. That is why a second team is going. While one team protects the daimyo, the other will be on the lookout. On the lookout for what? Asked Sai. According to what scant information my sources have managed to dig up, there might be a chance that the Akatsuki will try to assassinate Lady Koike, Jiraiya told them. They're going to send one of their members to kill her? Suki asked. Probably not. Ever since the Chunin exams, we have reason to believe that there is more to the Akatsuki than originally believed. What do you mean? Naruto asked the Toad Sage. They revealed themselves to be in control of Mangekyo. Clever, he admitted after a paused silence. What do you mean? Sokka asked. If the Akatsuki are the ones leading Mangekyo, then that means they probably control the daimyo of that country, he explained it to the tribesmen. That, in turn, means they have access to diplomatic immunity. Somehow, I don't think diplomatic immunity is going to protect 9th class missing shinobi, Dobe, Sasuke told him. It's not them who will have it, they don't need it, he replied curtly. If that country sends out ambassadors to other countries, there's no legal way to find out if they are with the Akatsuki or not. They'd be protected. You're right. That is clever, Sokka admitted. It was a good way to get spies into other places cleanly. And given the fact that AIM, and by extension, the country, has adopted a heavy isolation policy, we don't know if the Akatsuki has complete control over the country, Tsunade added. That is why you're going to try to use this potential assassination to your advantage. Snag the assassin and pump him for information? June asked before smiling. Just the way I like it. Good to hear. Team Paragon will act as the daimyo's guard. Team Kakashi will look for the assassin and get information, she told the two teams. Bad idea, said both Sokka and Naruto at the same time, earning looks from everyone else. The Hokage's eyebrow went up. And why is that? From what I know, Team Kakashi is fairly well known in these lands, Sokka explained. You've got Sharingan no Kakashi, Kakashi of the Sharingan, the Konoha no Sakura Hole, Konoha's Cherry Blossom Phoenix, and the Kurijishi no Sharingan, Black Lion of the Sharingan. If they go hunting for information, odds are that the assassin will find out. You do realize we know the Henjutsu, right? Sakura asked him. There's more to it than that. Besides, if the Akatsuki did have a presence in the land of snow, they would have noticed you, even if you were using the henge. If the assassin finds out you're fishing for information in the same time span that Koike and the Fire Daimyo are together, they'll probably be able to connect the dots. So, what do you suggest, Sokka? Koike asked. We switch the teams. Team Kakashi will stay with the daimyo while Team Paragon hunts for information. If the assassin isn't one of the S-class shinobi, then I doubt they will recognize us. But they will know Dickless the moment they see him, Sai said, pointing at Naruto. The Akatsuki will try to find him if he reveals himself. Sai, I just have one thing to tell you, Naruto told him. There was a cheerful smile on his lips that was anything but. And what's that? The next time you call me Dickless, you'll be flying through a window. Everyone, even Sai, could tell he meant every word. Besides, I'll be able to be there and the Akatsuki would be none the wiser. How? Asked Suki. You'll see when we get there, he said cryptically. Very well, Team Paragon will be the shadow team and Team Kakashi will be the public team, Tsunade said with a tone of finality. Reconvene at the gates within 2 hours. You are dismissed. Sasuke and Sakura walked up to the gates of Konoha, packed and ready for the mission. Well, look who's here, it's the married couple, June remarked from atop Nyla. We're not married, Sasuke told her shortly. Although I'm sure Sakura would love that to be true, Naruto remarked as he leaned against one of the gates, cigarette in his mouth. He wore a black traveling cloak over his clothes with the hood up over his head. That's not funny, Naruto, Sakura told him. Besides, I've grown out of that. He stared at her, pulled out a shuriken, held it up in the air, and let go of it, letting it fall to the ground. Sakura's not a fangirl anymore, he said to himself. It's the end of the world. Now, that's not nice, Naruto, Kakashi told him as he and Sai joined them. It's still the truth. We have to work with these people, Naruto, Sokka said. Akela was at his side, sniffing the air and observing new scents. I'm well aware of that. Hell, he had known these people before the tribesmen did. Although dealing with Long Fong is far more preferable to them. Sokka and Suki winced at the mention of the former Dai Li head's name. Then at least try to get along with them. This is me getting along with them, he retorted. If I didn't want to get along with them, either I'd be gone or they'd be dead. Gaki, behave, Jiraiya told him with a stern voice. I am behaving. He took a drag and blew out the smoke. When is Lady Koyoki showing up? She should be here soon enough. Actually, I think I see her coming up now, Azula said as she looked back into the village, getting everyone's attention. I apologize if I was late, Koyoki said as she walked up to them. You weren't. Suki reassured her. Hey, where are the guards or the servants? I thought you would have had them, since you're a daimyo, Sokka asked. She shook her head. I came here with Lord Gaara during the Chunin exams and I've stayed in Konoha since. I've been talking to the fire daimyo via messengers, so this will be the first time we'll be talking about the trade agreement face to face. And nobody back home is panicking about where you went? Naruto asked her. Everyone who needs to know where I am does know. Is everyone here? Jiraiya asked, looking around and counting heads. Yes. They all answered. Good. Since we're escorting Lady Koyoki, we cannot take to the trees. This'll make the journey to the capital about 5 days long. I want you all to be on alert. I don't care if we're on the road, at camp, or in the capital, never let your guard down, got it? We got it, FS-sensei, Naruto told him. Then let's move out. They all started walking away from the village and for Team Paragon, their first mission in the elemental countries. Chapter 49, Splitting Up and Looking Around. Location, Land of Fire Capital. As they walked through the capital's gates, the Paragons noticed how busy it looked compared to Konoha. Additionally, Naruto noted how the civilians in here didn't glare at him. If anything, they didn't care about him. Likewise, Sokka and Suki looked around the streets as merchants and guardsmen often chatted with each other. Not exactly what I was expecting, Azula commented as she stared at its walls. While it and the gates were impressive, as she could tell they would be able to protect the city behind it, they were completely different than what she was used to. What were you expecting? More red? Asked Naruto. Yes. She was from the Fire Nation. There was a lot of red in the capital alone. She was used to its color. Just because we're in the capital of the Land of Fire, doesn't mean all of it has to be red, he told her. I am well aware. Despite where she was raised, she knew that well enough. Are the two of you done? Jiraiya asked them both from behind. Yeah, just about, Naruto replied. Then the 5 of you. Akela growled and Nyla hissed. Sorry, the 7 of you should get going. I'll stay with Team Kakashi and Koiki. Right, we'll see you when we see you. Team Paragon walked past the gates and into the city, Naruto pulling the hood over his head as they did so. Soon, they disappeared within the crowd in the streets. Well, I guess we'd better head to the Fire Daimyo's palace, Kakashi said. They walked away from the gates in a different direction. There was another gate that went straight to the palace and shinobi who wanted to speak to the daimyo went through that one. Even though Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Koiki talked to one another, the other 3 members didn't. Sai didn't talk because he didn't feel the need to. Sasuke and Sakura, however, didn't speak because of something else. They had been like that ever since the day before. Flashback, they walked down the road, slowly making their way to their destination. All around them was nothing but trees and open skies. Ugh, June groaned. Can I just go ahead and meet you guys there? It's getting more and more tedious waiting on you all. Do you know the way to the capital, June? Naruto asked her. No. Then stop complaining and keep on moving. Hell, even Nyla is complaining less than you are. She gave him a half-hearted glare but didn't say anything. She just urged the Shurshu she was riding on forward. The rest of them just kept walking as well. As they did, Jiraiya walked up beside Naruto. Hey, how long are you going to keep this up? What are you talking about? The blonde asked him. I'm talking about you and Team Kakashi. You haven't spoken to them for the past 4 days, and every time they've tried to do so with you, you either ignore them or walk away. I'm just trying to focus on the mission, he replied, keeping his eyes looking straight ahead. The mission hasn't even started yet, Gaki. You'll have to talk to them eventually. I'll talk to them when I have to and only when it concerns the mission. And you'll just talk to the others about anything else, that about it. It's a perfect solution, right? He got slapped upside the head for that remark. Oh. It is not a perfect solution, the Toad Sage said, frustration clear in his voice. They may not be your teammates anymore, but you are still working with Team Kakashi. You need to interact with them. No, I do not. Yes, you do. All he got for a response was Naruto walking away from him. He gave an annoyed growl but didn't go after him. Is it really that bad? Koiki asked as she walked up beside him. It could be worse, he admitted. If he had the same temper from 3 years ago, they would have already come to blows. But he's just keeping it to silence, and generally ignoring them, despite their efforts to talk to him. I've seen it too. He pretends to be busy, so he has a reason to ignore them. She felt that it was a little sad to see such a thing. They're just trying to talk to him, why would he try to avoid that? If Naruto had his way, he would have let the elemental countries hang and stayed on the other side of the planet. Then why hasn't he? Partly because I forced him into a deal, Jiraiya admitted. But also partly because he knows that if the Akatsuki achieve their goal, they won't stop with the elemental countries. So he isn't here to save us, but protect the bending countries. That's about it. He sighed. You know, there are some days when I wish the old Naruto was back. Kami, do I miss that annoying little brat? You do realize I can hear you, right? Naruto asked from in front, making them flinch slightly. Before he could say anything else, a group of men appeared out of the trees and stood in front of them, blocking their path. Hands up where we can see him! One of the men shouted, waving a sword at them. The blade had specks of rust that they could see from this distance. And why should we do that? Azula asked. Are you stupid or something? Put them up! The man screamed. This is a robbery. We'll be taking all of your valuables. And the women, of course, another man said, leering at Koiki. I think I'll bring this one along as well, a fat, ugly-looking man declared as he walked up to Sokka. He's a pretty one. He grinned as he placed the tip of his knife on the tribeman's cheek. It looks like Tatsu's found another toy, the first man said aloud, earning catcalls from the other supposed robbers. I'm gonna enjoy breaking you, Tatsu told him, tapping the knife against his cheek. Soon you'll be begging for me. I doubt it, Sokka replied. He was calm as water. That's what they all say at first, he said with a greasy chuckle. Now I wonder how big you are. He brought his free hand downwards, towards Sokka's crotch. I recommend you don't do that. And why's that? If you do, my sword's going to end up in your throat. Oh, I'm sure it will, but it'll be my sword that's going to be in your throat. He didn't finish the sentence, due to Sokka whipping his weapon out of its scabbard and plunging it into his throat. He pulled it out, and the dead man fell to the ground. And for the record, I have a girlfriend, he told the corpse. The rest of the would-be robbers stared at him in shock. Nice going there, Sokka, Naruto complimented him, walking up beside him. Now there are only 9 of them left. I noticed, Naruto, he replied, eyeing the rest of them. Their confident air was now lost and was replaced with a nervous one. So, how's about we just kill the rest of them? Sounds like a plan to me. Akela, stay out of this one, he told the wolf, who just yawned with boredom. Alright, you take the 4 on the left, the blonde said. I'll take the 5 on the right. Hang on, why do I get 4 and you get 5? You already killed one, that's why. As they talked, the robbers had gotten over their shock. Do you really think the 2 of you will be able to beat us? The second robber asked. Actually, I think it's going to be quite easy, Naruto said before he turned to face the water paragon. So, how do you want to do this? First one finished wins? Sokka suggested. Sounds good to me. He dropped into a stance and the tribesmen did the same. Before anyone could say anything, the 2 attacked the rest of the robbers. As they watched, everyone realized that attack would have been too mild a word. They tore into the robbers. Sokka was using his Zanpakuto to effortlessly cut off limbs or decapitate them. Naruto had taken an earthbending stance and was using it to shatter bones. He'd kick or punch an opponent so hard, the snapping of their bones was loud enough for everyone to hear. But whoever he was fighting, and breaking their bones, didn't have the chance to scream, because that's when he killed them. Eventually, they had killed almost every single one of the robbers. There was only one left, a boy around their age. He looked at the two of them with nothing but fear in his eyes. Realizing that his death was imminent, he tried to run away, tears running down his face as he screamed with fear. But he didn't run away from the group, he ran towards it. He ran through them and had just gotten clear of Sasuke and Sakura when a kunai flew and buried itself in the back of his head, killing him. The two Konoha shinobi just stared at the dead body falling to the ground. If the two of you were just going to stand there, the least you could have done was stop him, Naruto told them curtly. He walked up to the corpse and pulled the kunai out. But I guess even you two will freeze up, even if you're both a chunin and a jonin, he said the last part mockingly as he walked away, lighting a cigarette as he went. The two of them just stared at his back. They had indeed frozen up, but not because of the fight. They had frozen up because they saw Naruto effortlessly kill 5 men on his own. The knucklehead idiot they had known who would always somehow be able to save a person's life had been replaced with someone who could, and would, kill without hesitation. End flashback. Sakura, Sasuke, what's the matter? Kakashi asked them, bringing them back to the present. It's nothing, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura told him, seeing that he and the others had stopped walking. We were just remembering yesterday. Ah, I see. I take it that he didn't act like that before? Sai asked them, trying to find out what he could about their former teammate. What gave it away? Sasuke replied with blatant sarcasm. I know he wasn't above killing his enemy, but still. He trailed off, remembering what happened. He had never seen Naruto fight like that before. Well, that's what happens when you fight in a war, Jiraiya remarked. Even someone like Naruto would be changed by that. We know that, Sakura told him. It's just that, we still see the old Naruto in him, but every time he does something different, it gets smaller. Kid, you're deluding yourself. Whatever is left of the old Naruto is too small to see, even with the Sharingan. But Lord Jiraiya, you've said it yourself, you miss the old Naruto as well, Koiki said to him. Just because I miss the old Naruto, doesn't mean I hope he'll come back. You're still lucky, Lord Jiraiya, Kakashi told him. Naruto opens up more to you more than anyone else in Konoha. If that's what you think, I must be doing better than I thought, because it feels like he hasn't opened up to me at all. The frank admission grated on him, just like the fact Naruto was different. Team Paragon made their way silently through the streets, people avoiding them because of the big Shirshu. So, what's our plan? June asked as she walked beside Nyla, making sure he didn't spontaneously attack anyone, or Naruto. Jiraiya gave us the names of his informants who came up with the information, Naruto told her, his head and face still covered by the hood. Someone would have to look hard to see his face. We'll have to go and talk to them. How do we get their attention? Sokka asked as he looked around. They had been in the street for only a few minutes and already he was making sure he had his bearings. It might not have the size of Ba Sing Se, but it was still big enough for someone to get lost in. We'll have to ask for a non-existent Aika novel. We have to ask for a what? He repeated what he heard, making it sound like a question. You heard me. Does such a concept actually exist? Azula asked, somewhat mystified by it. Who wouldn't? Apparently, he answered as he pulled out a piece of paper and looked at its contents. The fucking sadist gave me this. It's a couple of addresses. Each one has a title with it, so odds are that's the title we ask for. Where do we go first? Suki asked. Actually, it's not going to be all of us. What do you mean? Sokka asked him. One of us will deal with one informant. If the same person keeps going to see them, we'll be bound to be found out. He looked over at the bounty hunter in the group. June, see if you can go find a place for us. It'll be weird to see people coming out of the Fire Daimyo's palace only to head for the lower class places constantly. And why do I have to do it? She asked. You're the one who's got Mr. Big, Furry, and Ugly, he said, casually ducking to avoid Nyla's tongue. Easy there, Nyla, she told the Shirshu, stroking his fur. Naruto, would you please stop insulting him? I'll stop insulting him when he stops trying to kill me. But he keeps trying to kill you because you keep insulting him. He shrugged. Then I guess we're at an impasse. Both Sokka and Akela rolled their eyes in unison at those words. She gave a small groan. Fine, whatever, I'm going to find a place. She started to walk away, leading Nyla along as well. Don't blame me if it's near a tavern. I need a drink. She called back to them. That would be better, thank you. He shouted in return. Isn't she going to get lost? Suki asked. I hope not, she has a map. It would be redundant to get lost in a city you had a map to. So do you know where to go? Azula asked him. Yes. Thankfully, I bought 2 maps. Then who has it? Who else would have it? He pointed his thumb at Sokka, who pulled out said map. Lead the way, map guy, he told the tribesman. That's Mr. Map Guy to you, pal, he said half-jokingly. Odd, I would have called you Dr. Map Guy. Oh, thank you. I didn't realize I had gotten the honor. Will the 2 of you knock it off? Suki asked them. We have a job to do. She shared a look with Azula. They had the same thought. Boys. All right, Naruto, hand me the address paper, would ya? The Fire Paragon handed him the paper. Okay, I think I know where to go. He made a turn at the street corner, and the others followed. He walked quickly through the streets, checking the map occasionally to make sure he hadn't gotten lost. Even though he walked fast, the others were still able to stay with him. This looks like the right spot, he declared, stopping in front of a store. The others stopped as well and looked at the store. Are you sure this is right place? Azula asked him. Yeah, I'm sure, he told her. Trust me, I wasn't exactly expecting this either. I thought it would have been a brothel or a hot spring, Suki commented. Actually, if I'm reading the addresses and the map right, that would have been the next place to go to. You know, if you think about it for a minute, it's not that surprising, really, Naruto said. Anyway, I'll be the one to make contact with the informant. Sokka, cover the entrance with Akela. Suki, keep an eye on anyone and everyone else in there. Azula, try to stay close to me, but don't make it obvious. Anyone got any questions? The others shook their heads. Then let's get to it. They split up and one at a time, causally walked into the bookstore. Naruto paid no attention to the others as he walked up to the counter. Excuse me, he said to the person working the counter. It was a teenage boy, only a couple of years younger than he was. Yes? Can I help you? The teenager asked. I'm looking for a particular book and I was told that it was sold here. That's possible. Do you know the title? Ika, Feral Love. The teenager frowned. I haven't heard of that one, he admitted. Are you sure that's the correct title? Yes. Hang on a moment. Let me go talk to the owner. He walked away from the counter and towards what looked to be the door to the back room, opening the door and sticking his head through it. Hey boss, could you come out here? A middle-aged man who looked like he enjoyed food came through the door. What is it? He asked the teenager with a grumpy look. I have a customer who's asking for a book I've never heard before. He gestured towards Naruto, who was still standing at the counter. He made an exasperated noise. Very well, I'll take care of this. He walked up to the counter. I apologize for this, sir. It's not a problem, Naruto assured him. Could you please tell me the title of the book you're looking for? Ika, Feral Love. Although he kept a pleasant look on his face, the owner's eyes went flat. Would that be in paperback or hardback, sir? He asked. Paperback, if you have it, the blonde answered. I believe there is a copy in the back. If you will follow me. He turned around and walked back through the door. Naruto briefly signaled the others to stay put before following him. They walked into the back room and into the main office. Once they were in, the owner locked the door behind him. You may know the passphrase, but I don't know you. Of course you don't, he replied, pulling the hood down and letting his head to be shown to the world, or at least the office. The owner looked at him. So, you're the kid he kept talking about. The one everyone was looking for. Did he tell you that we were coming? Naruto asked him. He nodded. I assumed that he would be here with you. He's with the other team. He'd figured to stay within the public view. Makes sense, he acknowledged. Are the other 3 and the wolf with you? He had been in the information business to know if people were keeping an eye out. Yes. Are they trustworthy? I trust them, and so does Jiraiya, the blonde told him. Good enough, he walked over to the desk and sat down behind it. Have you heard anything new? Naruto asked, walking up to the desk. It was a nice desk, made from good quality oak and aged well. He shook his head. Not really. What I've heard has been mostly repeated. There is a possibility that the Akatsuki might try to have the spring daimyo killed, but that's about it. Are you sure you haven't heard anything new? Well, I did hear something about the hit might possibly happen during the upcoming dance, but I can't be sure. What dance? He asked, looking up from the desk. The fire daimyo is supposedly going to throw a formal dance for the snow daimyo soon. I guess it's to celebrate the trade agreement, or something like that, the man explained before snorting slightly. Our ruler would celebrate the dropping of a hat. You don't like the daimyo? No one in the capital likes the daimyo. The man is a complete idiot. He makes his decisions based on what his advisors tell him. Whoever is the most convincing gets his approval. And when it comes to important things, he leaves it to his advisors. That has got to be the most idiotic way of ruling a country I have ever heard of. And I'm also counting Ba Sing Se, Naruto thought. No kidding, the QB agreed. Ozai and Long Feng might have been greedy, controlling assholes who didn't give a damn about anything else except their power, but at least they knew how to rule a country. If everyone dislikes the daimyo, why haven't you overthrown him or something? Mostly because his advisors are able to deal with any potential damage his decisions create, answered the owner. But if you want an actual answer, we're just waiting for his daughter to take over. That's it. How old is the daughter? Didn't Jiraiya ever tell you that it was rude to ask a lady her age? He asked with a slightly amused look. That's only if you're asking the lady herself, the blonde retorted. Besides, we're talking about the man who peeps on naked women regularly, and is still not dead. He chuckled. You're right about that. But you still haven't answered my question. I know I didn't. You just need to know that the daimyo's daughter is shaping up to be a much better ruler than her father. If she were to try and overthrow him, the people here in the capital would probably look the other way. That would be the first time I've heard something like that ever happen, he said after a moment of silence. You know what they say, kid. There's a first time for everything. True enough. Are you sure there isn't any new information? If there was, I would have told you. Then my team and I will be going then. He turned around and walked for the door. Are you sure you don't want to buy a book? The owner asked him as he stood up and walked over to the door as well, unlocking it. I don't know about my teammates, but I'm fine, he answered as he walked out of the office, pulling the hood back up. That's a pity. Team Kakashi had a brief meeting with the fire daimyo, in which he waved them away within 10 minutes. For Sasuke and Sakura, that was the first time they had met the daimyo and were a little surprised by him. Is he always like that? Sakura asked as they headed towards their rooms. Pretty much, Jiraiya answered. You have to make your point quickly when you're talking to him, otherwise he'll get bored. That doesn't really seem like a good way to rule a country. He's still the daimyo. We have to make do with what we got. How on earth did the Sandaime deal with him? Sasuke asked. With a lot of patience and a lot of fast talking, he answered. But mostly, he dealt with the advisors. And that's what Lady Tsunade has to deal with now? Koyuki asked as they rounded a corner. Yes, it is. Truth be told, it was a lot easier when his wife was alive. Hold on, I thought Madame Shirjimi was his wife, Sakura pointed out. She had been there in the throne room, but she had been focused on her cat rather than them. We're here, Kakashi announced as he opened the door to the set of rooms they had been given. Sasuke, Sai, Lord Jiraiya, and I will take the room on the right. Lady Koyuki will take the room in the back and Sakura will take the room next to her. He ordered as they walked into the first room, closing the door behind him. They moved quickly to put their stuff in the room they had been given, working methodically and effortlessly, Koyuki a little less so than the others. She was a daimyo, not a shinobi. As they did so, there was a knock on the door. Both Sasuke and Sakura moved to either side of the door, hands hanging over a readied weapon. Sai hung back, hiding himself in the room's shadows. Koyuki slowly walked over to the door and opened the door, revealing a woman who looked to be in her early 20s. Lady Koyuki? She asked. Yes. You are? Koyuki asked in return. My name is Lady Miki. I'm the daughter of the fire daimyo and the person who you've been communicating with about the trade agreement. She frowned. I thought I was communicating with the fire daimyo about that. My idiot of a father doesn't care about it. He just passed it on to his advisors, who told me about it. Honestly, it's probably better that I was talking to you. She looked around the room and saw both Kakashi and Jiraiya. Lord Jiraiya, it's good to see you again, she greeted him. It's good to see you again as well, Mickey, he told her with a smile. Were you able to find the one you were looking for? Unfortunately, yes. How is that unfortunate? She asked with a small frown. I thought you would have been happy to have finally found him. It has to do with how I found him, and where he was all this time. I don't understand. If you ever meet him, you will. I'll take your word for it. She looked at both sides of the door. Why exactly are the two of you standing like that? She asked both Sasuke and Sakura, who were still standing there. We're hired to protect Lady Koyuki, Your Highness, Kakashi told her. Both Sakura and Sasuke are only doing their jobs. Well, I'm not about to kill the person who the Land of Fire is about to sign a trade agreement with, so they can relax. Sasuke, Sakura, stand down, he told them. They did but kept their hands ready. Thanks. She turned back to face Cookie. May I come in? Please, by all means, she replied, stepping away from the door. Thanks. She walked into the room. Sorry for deceiving you about the trade agreement. I'm just glad that it was being taken seriously. But why did the daimyo pass it to his advisors? I already told you, my father is an idiot, and that's being polite, she said with a small scowl. If he does get into something, his advisors have to make sure that he doesn't do too much damage. That's not a nice thing to say about your father, Mickey, Jiraiya told her. It's still the truth, Lord Jiraiya. She gave a little sigh. Sheesh, it was better when my mother was alive. Sasuke and Sakura shared a look. Isn't Madame Jimmy your mother? Sakura asked. She looked at them like she didn't believe what they had just said. You honestly think that fat bitch of a woman is my mother? She scoffed. What the hell made you think that? Well, she is the daimyo's wife. His second one. And all she cares about is that kami-forsaken cat. Which every genin team in Konoha knows quite well, Sasuke remarked drily. She looked over at him. You're that Uchiha kid, right? He briefly bowed his head. Yes, Your Highness. You know, Jimmy once tried to arrange a marriage contract between the two of us. He was surprised by that but managed to keep it off his face. I was not aware of that. She shrugged. That's mostly because I gave her a black eye when she suggested the idea and threatened to kill her cat the next time she brought it up. Not to be disrespectful, ma'am, but couldn't you have killed the cat instead? She laughed. Oh, I like you. She turned back to face Cookie. Sorry, but I have to go. We can talk later. I just thought I'd introduce myself to you, so you know what to expect when it came to the trade agreement. It's not a problem at all. Thank you for informing me. They watched as the daughter of the fire daimyo walked out of the set of rooms. Well, that was unexpected, Kakashi said after she had left, closing the door. I had no idea she was in charge of the trade agreement. You and I both know the daimyo is an idiot, Kakashi, Jiraiya told him. Yes, but I assumed that the advisors were taking care of it. Well, they're not. If those advisors were as halfway competent as the fire daimyo, then it's no wonder the people here are waiting for Lady Mickey to ascend. He rubbed the back of his head as he glanced at the door. She's becoming more like her mother every time I see her, he said, mostly to himself. I take it her mother was someone you knew? Sai asked as he came out of the shadows. Anybody who knew the world of politics knew who she was. What do you mean, Lord Jiraiya? Sakura asked him. Back when she was alive, Mickey's mother was daimyo all in name. And in those days, the country ran smoothly. She ruled the Land of Fire? Yes and no. The daimyo was the official ruler, but all the power was with her. She called all the shots, and it seems she taught what she knew to her daughter. What happened to her? Sasuke asked. We were never quite sure, he replied. We knew that she had been murdered, but there was never an investigation. The daimyo just waved us off whenever we asked about it. He kept telling us that it didn't matter. But that was his wife, he said in outrage. How could the daimyo do something like that about his own wife? And according to him, she was now a dead woman. Hell, he remarried within 2 weeks. Didn't he have a funeral for Mickey's mother? Sakura asked. Not one I was aware of, which is odd, considering the fact that a funeral of daimyo, or their family, is always an event where the Hokage has to show up. When did she die? Koyuki asked. Just about a year after the Kyuubi attacked the village. So, the fire daimyo has been running the country for the better part of 15 years. Given what you've all just told us, how exactly is it that the land of fire is not bankrupt? Sasuke asked. Mostly because the advisors are very good at damage control, Jiraiya answered with a straight face. Shouldn't we focus on the mission? Sai asked them. There's not much we can do right now, Kakashi told him. All we can do now is to wait for Naruto and the others to pass us anything they can find, he said, having trouble saying his former student's name. Why don't we go look for the information ourselves? For all we know, the Jinchuriki is using this opportunity to escape from us and take his friends with him. We'll be left blind if he does. Naruto would never do that, Sakura objected. I think we can all agree that either you or Uchiha aren't the experts on him anymore, he told her. He still wouldn't do that. He would never abandon his friends. She might know him best anymore, but she knew that he wouldn't do that. In case you've forgotten, he doesn't consider you two his friends anymore. Before things could come to blows, Jiraiya spoke up. Kakashi, why don't you, Sasuke, Sakura, and Koike take a look around the palace? We're going to be spending a couple of days here, so you might as well get used to the location. I'm going to have a talk with Sai. Kakashi caught the implications behind the Toad Sage's suggestion. Understood, Lord Jiraiya, he replied, walking over to the door and opened it. Sasuke, Sakura, Lady Koike, let's go. Sasuke and Sakura had also caught the implications and followed him. Koike also followed, understanding that if she'd stayed, she'd probably be caught in the crossfire. What is the matter, Lord Jiraiya? Sai asked once the door was closed, and the footsteps had faded from earshot. What are your orders concerning Naruto? The Toad Sage bluntly asked the pale-looking boy. What are you talking about? He asked back with his fake smile. I don't have any orders that concern Naruto Uzumaki. His response was to grab him by the neck and slam him into the wall, hard enough to hurt, but not enough to make a dent. Don't give me that crap, Sai. We both know you're from Root, and we both know that Danzo gave you orders about Naruto. So I will ask you again, what are your orders concerning Naruto? To observe him, he finally answered. What else? If Konoha's interests are no longer his priority, then he is to be removed. Then that's going to be a problem for you and Danzo. Naruto isn't here to act in Konoha's interests. So if you ever try to remove him as you called it, you'll be making a very big mistake. How would I be doing that? He held up his free hand and began forming a Rasengan. Because the moment you make a move against him, it'll be your last, he threatened the Root operative, holding the completed jutsu close to his face. Are we clear? Yes, sir, he answered. We are clear. Good. The Rasengan dissipated as he released his grip. Glad to know we understand each other. He turned around and started walking away. We might as well go catch up with the others. Sai just stared at his back in silence. He left 3 years ago and had made no attempt to come back willingly. He's refused every single offer given to him by us. He makes his dislike of us and the village evident every time he talks to one of us. So why do you keep taking his side? He asked. He paused but didn't turn around to face him. I wasn't a good godfather to him when he was younger. I'm trying to make up for it now. That's why you always go to his side. Because you're trying to make up for what you failed to do? That's my reason. I'm sure the others have their own. He started walking again. Let's get going. He walked out of the room and Sai soon followed him. They walked through the streets, having gone to every address on the paper. I'm new to this whole information hunting thing, so I don't know if our little trips were worth it or not, Sokka commented. They all pretty much gave us the same information, Azula replied. We went to at least 4 different places, and we were told the same thing every time. The only thing that was different was a couple of the details. They also told us that nobody in the capital likes the fire daimyo very much, Suki said. Can you blame them? Naruto asked her. I've never met the guy and I don't like him just by listening to how he rules. The asshole might have bent on conquering his side of the planet, but at least he knew how to rule. Who's the asshole? Azula asked. Ozai, he answered. I thought he was the royal flaming asshole. He's been stripped of his titles and thrown into jail, so I can't call him royal. And his firebending has also been taken from him, so I can't call him flaming, hence, why he is the asshole instead of the royal flaming asshole. Well, that's nice, but we still have the same basic information from 4 different sources. That just means one thing, he said. What? she asked. We're going to have to look for new information on our own. Still, at least we have something to start with. What do you mean? Suki asked him. Each informant told us that the spring daimyo will possibly be taken out at the upcoming dance, so all we have to do is ask around about said dance. Well, we can't do that in the slums and whatnot, Sokka remarked. We'll have to ask around the higher class places. Don't be so sure about that. Remember, the owner of the hot springs told Suki that if the daimyo was going to be throwing a party, there's a good chance the rest of the city isn't going to be working. All we have to do is ask in the right places. Such as? Azula asked. Well, for one, we ask the shopkeepers if they're going to be closing because of the dance. If they say yes, we then ask why and then pump them for details. We could also ask the taverns and bars if they're going to be staying open late, or if they're going to lower the prices on drinks on the same day of the dance, Suki pointed out. Good point. There is also. He trailed off when he noticed Azula looking straight ahead. Azula, what's the matter? June and Nyla are coming straight at us. They looked in the same direction as she did. Sure enough, both the bounty hunter and the Shirshu were coming at full speed. Thankfully, the street wasn't that crowded, so anybody who would have been in their way got out of the way pretty fast. There you are, June declared as she stopped Nyla in front of them. You couldn't have stayed in one spot? We had multiple people to talk to, June, Sokka told her. You knew that. Never mind that, just follow me. She turned Nyla around and went off. The others shared a brief look with each other before going after her. She, and by extension they, didn't stop until they were outside the capital's walls and into the nearby forest. The others were able to keep track of her as they ran. By the time they had gotten deep into the forest, they were panting, some a little more than others. Why exactly did we have to run out to the forest? Suki asked June as she tried to get her breath back. I just wanted to make sure we weren't being watched, she answered, sounding nervous. Why would we be watched? Azula asked. I just want to be sure, okay. June, what did you do? Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes at her. I didn't anything, she protested. June. What makes you think she did something anyway, Naruto? Sokka asked him. Mainly because she acts like this any time she does something that's probably going to come back and bite her in the ass, or in this, our ass. So, what did you do, June? He asked her again. I might have gotten us involved in Koiki's assassination. There was a good 15 seconds of silence before both Sokka and Suki said the mandatory what. Naruto, on the other hand, just took a deep breath and looked at her. And how exactly did that happen? All I did was walk into a tavern, get a drink, and started talking to someone, I swear, she told him. Flashback. Alright, Nyla, behave yourself, she told the Shirshu, who only growled slightly in response. That's a good Shirshu. She turned around and walked into the tavern. As she walked up to the bar, everyone's attention was on her and not in the checking her out way. They were sizing her up as a potential threat. She didn't pay any attention to them. She was no novice to that dance routine. But she didn't care about that. All she wanted at that point was a drink. Hey, she called as she sat down at the bar, getting the bartender's attention. Got anything to drink? What do you want? The bartender asked. Tea if you got it. Does this place look like it's a tea shop to you? He asked, a warning tone in his voice. It looks like the place that'll give the customer what they want. Besides, I can see the kettle heating up, she replied, pointing her thumb at said kettle, which started to whistle. Without saying anything in response, the bartender walked over to the kettle, grabbed it, and started making tea. He poured her a cup and handed it to her. She put a couple of rios on the counter as she took the cup. Just so you know, a man said as he sat down next to her. The only reason he asked if this place looked like a tea shop was because the tea here isn't that good. She took a sip of the tea. I've had worse, she replied. If you say so, he told her with a grin. By the way, I don't know, and I don't care, the bounty hunter said, cutting him off. If you're trying to pick me up, just forget it. Whoa, a little harsh there, aren't ya? Still true, isn't it? He laughed. Don't worry, I wasn't serious. I was wondering what you were doing in town. You're not from around here, so people are curious. What gave it away? She asked sarcastically, already knowing the answer. That creature out front, he answered. Are you a bounty hunter or something? I like to think of myself as a well-traveled businesswoman, she replied with a smirk. Where are you from? I'm from across the sea. My friends and I figured we could use a change of scene. And where are your friends? They're out getting the lay of the land. It might have sounded a little cryptic to some people, but others would realize they were scoping out the place. Are they bounty hunters too? She thought it over for a moment as she took a sip. I guess, among other things. So, why are you a bounty hunter? He asked her. You got any personal reasons or something? If I did, would I tell you? Besides, I'm just in it for the money. That's it. My jobs pay well, and I get some fun out of it, she told him. The bigger the amount of cash, the happier I am. In that case, I have a proposition for you. You say this to every strange girl you meet, or am I the exception? She asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. Actually, I'm being serious. You and your friends need money, right? She shrugged. We do have cash, but we were going to check to see if there was an exchange rate around here. There isn't. Here, your money is completely useless. But I have a job offer that pays very well. Oh, really? What's the job? You said you were a bounty hunter, but have you ever done any assassinations? A couple of times, when the bounty was wanted dead or alive and there was no way of taking him alive. What about your friends? He asked, sounding a little more serious now. Did any of them take any contracts? Some of them might have. I never really bothered to ask. She put the cup down and looked over at him. What's this all about anyway? My boss has a job that'll pay a lot of money for an assassination, and from what I've just heard, you and your friends are perfect for the job. Are you kidding? I just told you that I was a bounty hunter, not an assassin. But you've done a couple, so you're not a complete novice. Besides, you and your friends do this job and you'll be set for life. I'll have to talk to the others and see what they think, she said after staying silent for a couple of seconds. That's fine by me. I'll be expecting your response by tomorrow. If you and your friends don't show up, I'll be disappointed. She said, standing up from the bar. If we take this job, who are we targeting? Ah, so you're interested. I didn't say that. I said if. Who would we be targeting? He smiled as he stood and leaned closer to her ear. My boss would want you to kill the springy daimyo, he whispered so no one else could hear them. While on the outside June appeared to be calm and indifferent, on the inside warning bells were going off. This is not good at all. I might as well already sign us up to take her out, she thought to herself. Without saying a word in reply, she turned around and walked away. She walked out of the tavern and immediately climbed aboard Nyla. Nyla, we need to find Naruto, now, she told the Shirshu, who hissed at the mention of the blonde. Now is not the time for that. I may have just landed us into something bad. Nyla heard the urgency in her voice, so he started sniffing the air, searching for Naruto's scent. Once he had it, he took off. End flashback. Everyone just stared at her as she finished telling what happened. I have to say, that was fairly impressive, June, Azula said, breaking the silence. We go looking for information on the assassination when all we had to do is wait for you to land us a potential job concerning said assassination. Don't act you haven't done anything that stupid, Azula, Naruto told her. You've done a few stupid things yourself. Actually, if you think about it, this can be beneficial to us, Sokka mused. What makes you say that? Because I can say about this is that we might be in trouble, June asked him. It's simple. All we must do is take the job. That statement made everyone look at him like he said he was Sozin reborn. Sokka, please explain, Suki told him. Look, we've been looking for information on the assassination in order to stop it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't think of a better way of stopping it than from within. You know, he does have a point, Azula said. If we were to take this job, any information regarding the assassination would be given to us, which we can pass to Jiraiya and the others. That'll give them time to make countermeasures. But how would we pass the information? If we take this job, odds are we'll be watched every single step of the way, June asked, calming down since she heard Sokka say it could be beneficial. I'm still trying to figure that out, Sokka admitted. Right now, the best I got is someone sneaks into the dance before we get there and warns them. That's cutting it really close, Suki pointed out. Sorry, but I still don't know how we can supply them with information if we're supposed to be watched as we plan this thing. Maybe we could use one of Jiraiya's contacts to pass the information, Azula suggested. One of them was the owner of a bookstore, and another was a manager of a food store. If we send one of them in to pass information, I think we'll be fine. That could work, he admitted. But we'd have to switch off every time we pass information. If we keep sending the same person to see the fucking sadist, whoever they'll have got watching us will start getting suspicious. They'll also get suspicious if we keep sending those two in again and again, Suki pointed out. We'd have to keep the time between sending one of them as random as possible so we can stay in the clear. It's shaky, but it's the best we've got to go on. But if we make this work, not only would we be able to protect Koike from the assassination, but we'd also probably be able to catch the actual assassins off guard and be able to grab them and pump them for information about the Akatsuki. So we're going through with this? Jun asked, making sure. Yeah, we are. Then I guess I have an answer for the guy. Naruto, you've been quiet throughout this entire talk, Azula said, looking at him while getting the others' attention. What's on your mind? He looked from where he was staring at the ground and saw they were all looking up at him. This seems too easy, he finally admitted. What do you mean? We go looking for information about the possible attempt on Koike, only to have the job itself offered to us? I don't know what the rest of you think, but this feels like a setup to me. But this could also be our only chance to stop the assassination, Naruto, Sokka told him. We have to risk it. I know that, he admitted. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying that we have to be careful and that we should never drop our guard. Keeping our guard up is a given, he said in reply. Neither Aang nor Katara are here to tell us that there's no need to be paranoid and that we can trust whoever wants our help. If Aang or Katara were here, they would have tried to browbeat everyone into saying no to the offer. They wouldn't have cared if it was the best way to stop it. The blonde retorted. That's the truth, Sokka agreed, making them all chuckle. They walked out of the forest, heading back to the capital. As they walked, the same thought lingered in their heads. Is this a setup? Are we the ones being targeted now? Chapter 50, Planning and Listening. Location, Land of Fire Capital. It was night outside and so mostly everyone was asleep. But while most of them were sleeping peacefully, Sasuke was tossing and turning. Sweat was pouring down from his head and into the bedding beneath him. He was trapped in a nightmare. He ran through the streets of the Uchiha compound, past the dead bodies of his clan. He knew who he was trying to get away from. He had had this dream before. But despite reliving it, he could do nothing to stop it. He all but bolted out of an alleyway and onto the main street, only to find Itachi standing there, waiting for him in the shadow of the moon. It's a lie, he begged. This isn't like you, big brother. It can't be. I have acted like the older brother you desired, Itachi told him. But then, he didn't continue his explanation. Instead, his form twisted and his features blurred, until who was standing in front of him wasn't Itachi, but Naruto. Just like I once acted like the teammate you desired, he said. Or should I say, the teammate that you once looked down upon. What? Sasuke asked. He was shocked by how deep his voice was. Looking down at himself, he saw that he wasn't a child, but the person he was today. What are you doing here, Naruto? His mouth turned into a sadistic grin. Sasuke noticed how his eyes were red, all but fox-like. And you called me a dobe? Take a good look around, you're supposed to be good with stuff like that. He did, and his eyes widened with more and more horror as he did. Not only were there members of the Uchiha clan lying dead in the streets, the other members of the Konoha 11 were there too. Asuma, Gai, Kurenai, Kakashi, Choji, Ino, Tenten, Shino, Lee, Hinata, Shikamaru, Kiba, Niji, even Sakura. What's going on here? What did you do? I got tired of you all begging me to come back, so I did something about it. Now, all that's left is you. You son of a bitch! Roared Sasuke as he leapt for him, his hand going for his Chikuto. But he grabbed nothing but air, which made him stop. Are you looking for this? He asked, holding up the Chikuto. Before he got an answer, he plunged it into the Uchiha's chest, making him fall backwards onto the ground. You know you really should have seen that coming, even without your precious Sharingan, he commented. He causally walked up to the dying Uchiha, standing over his head. Thankfully, I know a way to fix that. He brought his foot and stomped down hard. Sasuke's eyes snapped open. He quickly sat up, about to scream. His training made him choke it back down. His breath was ragged and sweat still poured down from his brow. Wiping the sweat off, he noticed that his hand was shaking a little. The others in the room were still asleep. He rose from his bedding and walked out of the room with a shaky step. As he walked into the common room, he saw that Sakura was sitting at the table, reading a book with only the light of the moon shining in from the windows and a candle on the table to give her light. He had forgotten that she had the first shift of guard duty. "Sasuke?" she asked. He looked terrible. "Hey, Sakura," he greeted her. "Are you okay? You look a little shaken up." That would have been putting it mildly. "I'm fine, I just had a bad dream." "What was it about?" "The night of the massacre, at first," he answered as he sat down. "What do you mean?" "I thought it was the same thing every time. This wouldn't have been the first time he had that nightmare." His head shook. "Not this time." "What was different?" "Naruto was there. He took Itachi's place." "And that was it?" He wasn't sure if that would have been as horrible or not. "No. He didn't just kill my clan. The Konoha 11 was there." "You mean we were?" she asked, leaving the question in the air unfinished. "Yes. He had killed everyone, even Kakashi-sensei and you. He told me that he was tired of us begging him to come back. He killed you all and then killed me." "It is okay, Sasuke. It was only a dream," she reassured him. He knew that. It was something he had told himself every time he had that dream. "Still, I can't help but feel that wasn't just a dream. It also felt like a warning. A warning of what would happen if we kept pushing him to come back." "I can understand what you mean, but he has to come back. He belongs here, with us." "That's not really true anymore. He has his own life to live," he retorted. "We can still be a part of that life. We can be his friends." He scoffed at that notion. "We're more likely to get him to come back instead of that. We can still try. Sakura, you've seen how he acts around us. Every time one of us tries to talk to him, he walks away. He'd rather talk to that water tribe guy, whatever his name is." Sasuke, his name is Saka." "I know that." He snapped at her, suddenly annoyed with her. She fell quiet for a few seconds. "You're angry at him, aren't you?" "Of course I'm angry at him. I remember what happened the first night we made camp. You saw the same thing I did." Flashback. Night had fallen and so, they had set up camp. It was a process that had been finished quickly because of so many people. Once they were done, they sat around the fire, eating their dinner. If anyone noticed the teams sat opposite each other, they didn't say a word. "Hey Naruto," Sokka called to him. "I gotta wonder, what was your training regime?" "What do you mean was?" he asked. "I still do the same regime, when I can." "When can you not?" "Well, you know. Fighting in a battle that can go for days on end, endlessly hunting for someone, protecting a person from assassination attempts, the list goes on," he listed, ticking the numbers off his fingers. "Why do you want to know anyway?" "I feel like I've got a lot of work to do if I'm ever going to catch up with you," the tribesman answered honestly. "You don't have as much work as you think," the blonde assured him. "But I still have work. If I'm going to be as good as you, I need to be as good as or better than you." That statement made both Sasuke and Sakura stop what they were doing and looked at him. That sounded incredibly like what a young Naruto would have said to Sasuke. "But make no mistake, Naruto, I will beat you one day." "Now that is going to take a long time," Naruto remarked with a dry tone. "If you're going to beat me one day, I'd suggest working on your strategies." "What's wrong with the ones I have?" "You mean besides the fact I knew about them the entire time?" "Name one time that's happened," he challenged. "Are you kidding?" "I can give you 3. The blonde held up 3 fingers. "Ba Sing Se, the invasion of the Fire Nation capital, and the Boiling Rock," he stated, lowering a finger with each one. "Oh, come on. I'll concede Ba Sing Se and the invasion, but the Boiling Rock?" "There is no way you would have known we were coming," he objected. "Of course I did. I was actually expecting you a couple of days later." "You are so full of it," Sokka told him, albeit with a grin on his face. "No, really, I was. You actually surprised me by coming when you did." "And what in the name of you made think that it would take me a couple of days to ask where my dad was?" he asked. "It was his dad after all. I assumed it would be because of you trying to get the courage to ask either Zuko or Azula and because of them trying to make sure that Aang paid attention to his firebending lessons," Naruto replied. "That actually took a couple of tries," Azula commented from where she sat next to Suki. "Every time his attention wandered, we had to attack him by surprise to make sure he was paying attention. The fact remains, you guys got there a couple of days earlier than I expected, So that's a point to you, the blonde conceded. Wait, when did we start keeping score? Sokka asked. Since about 5 seconds ago. By the way, you're still a point behind me. What? Ba Sing Se and the invasion were a point to me, but the boiling rock was a point to you, so it's 2-1 in my favor. Oh, that's going to change. You wanna go right now? Naruto challenged, putting down his dinner. His response was to leap at him. It soon became a playful wrestling match. Nobody interfered, but Jiraiya was giving a color commentary that was making some of the others start to laugh. Finally, it ended with Sokka on top of Naruto with his arm in a lock. Say it. Say it, he ordered Naruto. I won't, he replied, trying to get out of the lock. You will. Say it, Sokka commanded, not letting him move. All right, uncle. Uncle. He released the lock and jumped up to his feet. You heard him, people. He said uncle. That's a point to me. We're tied now. He danced a jig around the fire in celebration. Yeah, I heard you the first time, the blonde grumbled as he got back up. But make no mistake, that's going to change soon. Of course it will. I'll be in the lead. Oh no, you won't. That will be me. Yeah, right, in your dreams, Naruto. The two of them spent the rest of the evening before going to sleep arguing about who would be in the lead. But everyone knew they weren't being completely serious about it due to the smiles they had on their faces. And yet, those smiles and the argument irked one person there. End flashback. Sakura looked quietly at her teammate. Are you angry at him or what he took? She asked. What do you think? He asked back. The dobe was always the one who was trying to beat me. I was his rival. Now of all sudden, he's got a new rival and I'm tossed away like yesterday's trash. You saw them, Sakura. They were arguing like the two of us used to do, except they don't take it seriously. Sasuke, how long have your eyes been like that? What are you talking about? She took a small pocket mirror from her pouch and held it up to his eyes. How long have you had the Mangekyo Sharingan? She asked again. The mirror showed him that he had accidentally activated the Mangekyo Sharingan. The design was a red six-pointed star with black lines forming a back hexagon in the middle, around a black pupil, and which all of it was surrounded by a black background. Damn, you've seen them, he muttered, deactivating them. How long, Sasuke? It's been 3 years now. Did you kill someone? The tone in her voice was almost accusatory. No, I didn't, he snapped at her before falling silent. It was the news that Naruto had left the village. The fact he had left us behind and I was a reason for that tore me apart. And I got the Mangekyo Sharingan as a reward for the pain of losing someone who was like a brother to me. Have you used it? No, he answered, sounding offended. This is only the third time I have activated the Mangekyo Sharingan. What was the second time? She knew that the first was when he gained them. To make sure I wasn't dreaming or hallucinating. So, you've never used them? Not even against Itachi? She knew that the brothers had met during their search for Naruto. I said that already, Sakura. Why didn't you? I chose not to, that's all. She just stared at him for a few moments, before laughing quietly. And I thought Naruto used to be the stupid one. I beg your pardon? He asked, looking at her. You didn't need to hide something like that from us, Sasuke, she told him, fondly placing a hand on his shoulder. We wouldn't have thought badly of you. You wouldn't, but the villagers might have. Besides, it's not a gift I wanted. What do you mean? If I use the Mangekyo Sharingan constantly, it'll affect my eyesight. In the end, I'll go blind. Then don't use it constantly. It's not that easy, Sakura, he told her. The first time they activated, I felt like I was filled to the brim with power. It was begging to be unleashed. I felt like that everything in the world was and should have been mine. It was an addiction that would have been easy to fall to. What stopped you? I looked in the mirror again and saw Orochimaru in my place. It scared me so much, I smashed the mirror to make him disappear. That was when I realized that the curse mark was influencing me. It had influenced me to leave the village, and it would have influenced me to use the Mangekyo Sharingan. So that's why you went to Lord Jiraiya. He nodded. If I hadn't, I would have been a security risk for the village, last Uchiha or not. She knew what he was talking about. If he had become a security risk, the elders, as well as both councils, would have ordered him to be killed. So, you had Jiraiya take away the curse mark and never used Mangekyo's Sharingan. And you were never going to tell me or Kakashi-sensei about it. That was the idea. She sighed silently. Sasuke, if it wasn't for the fact that it's the middle of the night and everyone else was asleep, I would slap you across the back of your head. He inwardly cringed. He had been there the last time she had slapped someone. The person went flying into a wall, making an indent that took the better part of 3 weeks to get rid of. You don't need to keep all the cards you have so close to your chest. You have to tell us some of those things. I don't have to do it right now. I am well aware of that. She stood up from the table. My shift is almost over. Since you're up, you can take the next one. I don't have any problems with that. Good. She turned around and walked towards her room. Good night, Sasuke. He watched in silence as she closed the door behind her. You might say that, Sakura, but not everyone wants to see what cards I'm holding. Especially that card, he thought to himself. It was something that he had been dealing with for quite some time now. Ever since Sakura had apologized for acting like a fangirl back when they were genin, the two of them had gotten along great as friends. But recently, he was beginning to feel attracted to her. He wasn't sure how it had happened. He just knew that he was attracted to her. He had honestly lost count of the number of times he had to refrain himself from using the Sharingan when she walked by. Even he had to admit that she had a great ass. He also didn't know what to do about it. He had never gone on a date, and he could count on his fingers the number of women he knew who weren't fangirls, and quite a few of said women would be very insulted if anyone called them that. He wasn't sure how Sakura would take it, so he kept his mouth shut about what he felt. He also knew that somehow, Kiba and a few others would never let him live it down. They sat in the tavern June had gone to. They sat at a table that was up against the wall, so they could watch the tavern without someone walking up behind them. Why exactly are we here this late? Sokka asked as he quietly stifled a yawn. There's virtually no one here. He looked around the tavern. It was somewhat seedy but looked clean enough to get people in and drink. New furniture was right alongside the old, telling them that this place had been the spot for more than a couple of bar brawls. The light of the moon barely lighted the not-so-clean windows of the tavern, forcing the lights to be left on. Currently, the only people who were in the tavern were them and the barkeeper, who was slowly closing up for the night. It's always best to have this kind of meeting where no one can hear you, June told him. So, always meet either during happy hour or when the place is empty. Do you see him? Naruto asked. He had the hood of his cloak back up and wore a bone-white mask over his face. Yeah, he's coming up now, she said, seeing the person and someone else walk into the place. Who's that person with him? Suki asked. I don't know. He wasn't with him when I met him. Hey, you're back. The man greeted her as he sat down. The team, except for June, took the opportunity to look him over. The best they could come up with was average. He had a plain-looking face with muddy brown eyes and hair. The other man just stood behind him. What he wore was covered by a traveler's cloak, but his pale blue hair, teal pupilless eyes with purple markings underneath them, and his headband was plain to see. Oh great, him, Naruto thought darkly to himself when he recognized who it was. I thought Hatake broke his neck. I guess he didn't try hard enough, the Kyuubi replied. What can I say? We talked it over and we all agreed to take the job, June told the man. Great. My boss will be glad to hear that, he exclaimed. Sir, we have to make sure they're the right people for the job, the second man told him. Oh, come on, Nadar. They're perfect for the job. You can tell just by looking at them. Even so, we must be sure. Your friend is right, Naruto said, deliberately lowering his voice so it sounded guttural and harsh. For all you know, we could be green rookies who never handled a knife before. And are you? Azula smirked when she heard that question. She whipped out one of daggers and pinned a fly on the opposing wall with it, startling the barkeeper. Does that answer your question? She asked smugly. And who exactly are you? I'm guessing you're some unimportant bodyguard. He stiffened in anger. I am Nada Roga, shinobi of Yukigekure and loyal servant to the daimyo of Snow. Now that's a contradiction if I ever heard one, Sokka mused as he fiddled with his boomerang. You're loyal to the daimyo and yet, you're planning to kill her. That woman is not the daimyo, he snapped, eyes burning with anger. The true daimyo is Lord Doto. I believe that would be the true daimyo was Lord Doto, the tribesman replied condescendingly. You need to work on your grammar. You little shit! His hand reached into the cloak as if to pull out a kunai. He froze when Akela started to growl and felt his teeth on his leg. Control yourself, Nadar, the first man ordered, his tone void of any humor or friendliness he had. Doto is dead, and unless you wish to join him, I suggest you act like a professional. In silence, he slowly withdrew his hand. Yes, sir, my apologies. Good. He turned to face Sokka. If you would be so kind to call off your pet, we can continue. He's not a pet, he's a partner, Sokka replied as Akela let go Nadar's leg. Please forgive me for being rude. The humor and friendliness were back in his voice like a switch had been flipped. That was weird, Naruto thought as he stood up from the table and walked towards the dagger. No kidding. Either that guy is one hell of an actor or he is hiding something, the fox remarked. Ten says he's hiding something. Given what we do, that's a sucker bet. For all we know, it could be both. Can we please move on here? Suki asked, pretending to sound impatient. I'm getting bored here. Relax, June told her. He still needs to know if we're good enough. Then hurry it up already, sheesh. Sorry about my friend, she's a little impatient, she told the guy. It's alright. I take it that's not the only thing about her? He asked. Sokka snorted. Are you kidding? She's one of the best fighters you'll ever see. And how do you know that? I married her. Thankfully, no one on his side of the table batted an eyelash when he said that, though most of them were thinking he's kidding, right? The other man only raised an eyebrow. Aren't the two of you a little young to do that? He asked. How is that any of your business? Suki asked back with a glare. You're here to ask about our abilities, not our lives. He chuckled. Good point. He looked over at Sokka. So, what can you do? I'm handy with a boomerang and a jian, he replied. Also, I'm good at creating plans and improving them. So, you would be a great help in the planning process, right? The tribesman shrugged. If you hire us, I could possibly pass an idea or two. He turned to face June. I know you're a bounty hunter, so there's no need to ask you what you do. Thanks so much. Her tone was dry enough to need a drink. And I'm guessing you're handy with a dagger? He asked Azula. What gave it away? She asked in return as Naruto came back to the table, handing her the dagger. What about you? He asked Naruto as he sat down. What can you do? I'm the one who can get into any place without anyone noticing. Why do you wear the mask? Nadar asked him with suspicion. Got caught in an explosion a couple of years back and ended scarring my face pretty badly, he lied. But it's a great thing to use when I have to interrogate someone. Why would you use interrogation? Sometimes we don't know when a bounty is, so we have to ask people for information. Everyone there knew full well what he meant by that. I see. So, do we get the job? June asked. Both the man and Nadar shared a look. That is up to the boss to decide, Nadar finally said. Then why did we have this entire conversation? Sokka asked, sounding insulted. Were you trying to dangle a job in front of us and yank it away as soon as we got interested? No, nothing of the sort, the man said, placating, raising his hands in defense. You could say this was a preliminary interview. If you want to get the job, you'll to speak the boss. And are we going to have to wait for that? No, not at all, he told him as he stood up. If you will come with me, we can take you to see him. At this time of night? Asked Suki. Does your boss not sleep or something? He sleeps when he has to, he answered before turning around and walking away, Nadar right behind him. Come along. They walked through the streets, avoiding what few people who were still walking through the streets. As they walked, the buildings around them got seedier and seedier. The tavern they had left was a little seedy, but not enough to make it a disgusting place to be. The buildings around them could make it look like a top-class restaurant. It was getting to the point where it looked like a sneeze would collapse the building. Finally, they stopped in front of a warehouse. Unlike the other buildings surrounding it, it looked like it was built to last, which automatically warned the team. A building built like this probably shouldn't even exist in this part of the city. It would be too odd. Here we are, the man declared as he walked up to the door. He opened it and walked through, Nadar walking in behind him. The rest followed, leaving Akela and Nyla outside the warehouse. The inside of the warehouse was practically bare, save for a spot in the center. A couple of lights were on in the ceiling, but they all were focused on the center, leaving the rest of the place to be lit by the weak light of the moon. In the center of the warehouse was a large table, with maps and blueprints spread across it. As they got closer, they noticed that most of the papers there concerned the daimyo's palace. "So where is this boss of yours?" Azula asked, looking around. "There's no one else here except us." I knew I had forgotten something," the man said to himself before placing his hands in a hand seal. Kai. He was enveloped in a cloud of smoke. When the cloud dispersed, the man had changed. His brown hair had turned black, and his face was now covered with an orange mask that looked as if it swirled around a hole where the right eye should be. But their attention was on his dark cloak, a dark cloak that had red clouds on it. "Hello, my name is Tobi," he greeted them in a childish voice. "You're the boss?" Sokka asked. "I thought it would have been someone else." "No, I'm the one who got picked for this job, so I'm the boss here. I kinda wish Deidara was here though. He'd be great at doing this kind of thing." He muttered the last part to himself but was still loud enough for the others to him. "Who is Deidara?" Naruto asked. "Oh, just someone I know, he's not important right now." "So, what was with the whole thing in the tavern?" Jun asked. "It was exactly what it was, a preliminary interview. You people are so slow. This is the real test, right now," he told them, gesturing at the table. "What are we supposed to do with all of that?" Suki asked. "What? You can't see it? It's obvious. You guys have to figure out how to kill the spring daimyo." As the morning light shined through the windows, Team Kakashi sat at the table, eating breakfast. "Did everyone sleep well?" Koiki asked as she looked around the table. "As well as we could," Sasuke answered, earning him a look from Sakura. "Well, we should have a leisurely morning. But I will have a meeting with the fire daimyo and his advisors regarding the trade agreement." "Why would the daimyo be there?" Sakura asked, looking up from her food. "I thought he would have stayed out of this kind of thing." "I'm not sure. Maybe he'll just be there for the sake of appearance. I just hope Princess Miki will be there. She's the one who I have been talking to." "No need to worry, Miki will be there," Jiraiya assured her. "She's been putting as much effort into this trade agreement as you." "I guess you're right. Are you all going to watch me throughout the day, or will you be taking turns?" she asked the shinobi there. "We will be there to guard you as you discuss the trade agreement as well as beforehand, Lady Koiki," Kakashi told her, gesturing to him and the rest of his team. "What will you be doing, Lord Jiraiya?" she asked the Toad Sage. "I'm going to go see what Naruto and his team have managed to dig up," he answered. He was interested to see what they had found already. "Are you sure you will find them?" "The city is a big place," Sai said, earning him a glare. "The kid might be good, but I'm better. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to track him down. But I also figure they'll try to send me a message. I'm guessing they'll use one of my contacts to pass it to me." "What makes you think that?" Koiki asked. "I trained Sokka and Naruto for a month. It wasn't just combat lessons and teaching them how to properly use their weapons. I also tried to teach them how to use the intelligence they have and make it better." The sound of someone knocking on the door got their attention. "Hey, Jiraiya, you in there?" called the voice of the bookstore owner. That set the shinobi in the room on alert, getting ready to attack. "It's alright, everyone. I know who it is," he told them before getting up, walking over to the door and opening it. "What is it, Daichi?" "This was addressed to you." He handed him a piece of paper. "I found it wedged underneath the door of my bookstore this morning." "Who was it from?" he asked as he looked over the paper. "If I had to guess, I'd say it was that kid and his group of friends." "That kid?" "Yeah, the kid you've been looking for the past 3 years." He understood what that meant. "I see. Thank you, Daichi." "Wasn't a problem." He turned around and ambled away. "What was that all about?" Kakashi asked. "It was as I said, Naruto and the others passing information off to me," he replied as he came back to the table, reading the piece of paper. "Is there anything of importance?" "Well, it seems that they have managed to get themselves in the middle of the plot to kill Lady Koiki." "They've what?" Koiki asked. "Apparently, June had inadvertently gotten them a chance to have an interview," he explained. "The message is brief, but they'll try to send more information soon." "How soon is soon?" Sasuke asked, looking over at him. "It doesn't say. But they do confirm that the attempt will take place during the upcoming dance." "That's in 2 days," Sai pointed out as he finished his food. "At least we'll have some time to prepare," Sakura noted. That's more than we usually get. They usually had to go with a plan that had been put together in under 24 hours. But there's nothing to prepare for if we don't get additional information, he argued. Of which I believe Naruto and the others will be able to pass to us, she replied, throwing him a look that dared him to continue the argument. He looked at her, still baffled by her and Sasuke's behavior. He's a missing nin who doesn't even think of them as friends, and yet they will still vouch for him. Why do they keep doing that? He silently asked himself. Why do they cherish a bond that he has obviously cut off? Anyway, all we can do is wait for the information to be passed to us, Kakashi said, standing up from the table. We've all been seen coming into the palace with Lady Koike. It will arouse suspicion if one of us leaves the palace, and she's not with us. Then what should we do? Koike asked him. For now, all we can do is act like nothing has happened. We act normally. If that's the case, then I suggest we take the leisurely morning we have out to one of the gardens. She stood up from the table. Shall we? We might as well, Jiraiya agreed. The others agreed and stood up from the table. They walked out of the room and down the hallway. Sasuke and Sai took the front while Sakura and Kakashi stayed behind Koike. Jiraiya walked beside her. To anyone who didn't pay close attention, he looked like a friend of the daimyo. They soon stepped out into one of the gardens the palace had to offer. It was filled with trees and flowers, and also had a little stream that flowed through it. There was a path that one could take so that could walk through the garden and enjoy it to the fullest. Even though they weren't really paying attention to the garden around them, both Sasuke and Sakura had to admit it was soothing. It wasn't intentional, but the garden's relaxing feel was getting to them, though they managed to put it on the back burner and kept at doing their job. They were crossing a small bridge when they met with Mickey. Hey there, Lady Koike and company, she greeted casually. The last time they had seen her, she had been wearing a kimono that was the color of royal purple. Now, she was wearing a pair of tan shorts and a light blue blouse. Her dark hair was held in a simple ponytail. Hello, Lady Mickey, Koike greeted the princess in return. That's an interesting choice of clothing. She shrugged. Not really, it's just some of my casual clothes. Of course, the FB keeps trying to get me to wear more dresses and other whatnot, she said, rolling her eyes. It's getting annoying now. Who exactly is the FB? The fat bitch, aka Madam Sure Jimmy, aka my stepmother, she answered as she watched the water in the river flow. Well, you were wearing a kimono when we first met. That was because I had just escaped from a formal dinner. She laughed. You will not believe how many times they will fall for the I have to go to the bathroom trick. Who are you dining with? Just another one of those suitors my father and the FB are trying to shove down my throat, she answered with a shrug. They both seem to think I need to be married before I ascend to the throne. There's no chance of that happening with the suitors they are throwing at me. What's wrong with the suitors? Jiraiya asked her. They are exactly like my idiot father, she told him with a frown. They can't form their own opinion to save their life, and they leave all the decision-making to other people. Honestly, it's like my father wants his own clone to succeed him, or something. Well, you could just do what your mother did. Let them have the throne, but you have all the power. She shook her head. No chance. I am the daughter of the daimyo of the Land of Fire. When my father finally dies, it will be me who's going to be sitting on that throne, not the FB, not any of my suitors or anyone else. I will be the one to rule this land, no one else, she declared with firm conviction. When they heard this, both Sasuke and Sakura were stuck with an image of Naruto, back when they were genin, with him shouting at the top of his voice that he was going to become Hokage. It's almost like looking at a female version of him, Sakura thought. The only difference is she will probably go through with her promise. If it helps in any way, Your Highness, the Uchiha clan will support you once you ascend to the throne, Sasuke promised her, surprising the others. If it was a more formal occasion, he would have knelt. She looked over at him. Thanks for the support, but I thought there were only you and your brother left. It's a work in progress, I will admit that. But if there is an Uchiha, there is a possibility of an Uchiha clan. And right now, the possibility of an Uchiha clan will support you. She grinned. You know, maybe the FB was onto something when we suggested we get married. Not to be rude, Your Highness, but I don't think that'll work. Sakura looked over at him with a question in her eyes, which he promptly avoided. Oh? Do you already have a girlfriend? She asked with a grin. I don't think fangirls qualify as girlfriends, Your Highness. Sakura stifled a laugh, which came out as a snigger and earned a glare from him. Mickey didn't try to stifle her laughter. You have fangirls? You must have to beat them off with a stick, huh? More like running away in a blind panic, Sakura stated with a full-blown grin. Shut up, Sakura, he told her with a scowl. Behave, you two, Kakashi reprimanded them. You know, I have got to spend more time with you guys, Mickey declared as she walked away from the railing, the wood creaking slightly from her footsteps. You're really entertaining. We try, my lady. We try, Jiraiya told her with a smile. Well, in any case, I got to go. If I stay in one place, odds are the FB will find me and try to drag me into wearing more formal clothes. She made a gagging noise. I'll see you at the meeting in the afternoon, Lady Koiki, she told the spring daimyo as she walked past, her feet going from the creaking of the wooden bridge to the crunching of gravel in the path. I look forward to seeing you there, Lady Mickey, she replied with a kind smile. Yeah, same here, just keep an eye out for my father. She waved goodbye as she walked away. You want us to what? Azula asked as they stood outside the pool of light that shone down on the center of the room. You have to figure how to kill the spring daimyo. Didn't you hear me the first time? Tobi asked childishly. We thought you already had a plan, June replied, keeping calm. She knew that at this point, if you panicked, you were going to end up dead. We do. But if you want the job, you either have to figure out what the plan is or come up with a better one, Nader told them with a small amount of smugness in his voice. You want us to come up with a plan out of the blue? Sokka asked. That's a little unfair, isn't it? We don't know anything about this country, let alone the palace, and you want us to come up with a plan with no information whatsoever? We didn't say that, Tobi replied. He gestured over to the table. We have plenty of information right there. You're welcome to it. Do we have a time limit? Naruto asked as he looked over the table. No, please take all the time you need. However, you've only got one chance to convince us. And I'm guessing that we won't like the outcome if we fail, will we? Of course you won't, Nader told him with a slightly crazed grin and a twitch in his right hand. Right, let's get to it then, Suki declared. They stepped into the pool of light and walked towards the table, passing the two employers. They spread around the table. They each took a map or a blueprint and began to look over them. Ignoring Tobi and Nader, they got right into the planning. The rustle of paper filled the air as they picked things up, put things down, or passed them around. One of them would sometimes walk over to another, holding a map or blueprint in their hands, and would discuss a point or an idea. They lost track of time as they worked. The weak light of the moon slowly faded from the small, grime-encrusted windows, which began to make the room outside the center begin to get darker and darker. When the moon had finally vanished, it left the center with the only spot of light. But that did not concern them. What did concern them was what was in front of them. What do you have? Nader asked, getting their attention. You said we didn't have a time limit, June replied, not bothering to look up from the blueprint she had in her hands. No need to be snappish, Nader's just asking, Tobi told him. But seriously, what do you have? They all looked at each other and nodded in agreement, putting whatever they had in their hands down. All right, here's what we've gathered, began Sokka as he faced the two from across the table. The daimyo's palace is well guarded. There seems to be routine guard changes every 4 hours at every entrance, and no one gets in without being inspected. The rooftops are also thoroughly watched, Naruto continued, holding up a blueprint of the rooftops to help show his point. Guard towers are positioned along the walls, and they are able to see everything. If we try to go across the rooftops, or even try to run through the courtyard, we'll have arrows and other whatnot flying at us. But even if we manage to make it through all of that, the alarm will have already rung, and we'll be caught. Digging under will be impossible as well, Suki stated. The guards patrol inside as well and also keep lookouts at key points in the building. The ground itself will be hard to dig through, which would slow us by quite a good amount of time. Not to mention that they might employ countermeasures to stop sappers from entering the castle during a siege. Even disguising ourselves as servants wouldn't work, Azula told them, pointing to a paper that had the information on the servants. The servants live inside the palace and can only leave it through guarded exits, which inspects them every time they leave and every time they enter. They each have only one uniform and each is personally marked, so they know which is which. That process alone kills the idea. We can't get into steal uniforms, because they'll know whose was stolen and be on the lookout for it. In all honesty, this does not look good, June announced. Even the sewers are too small to crawl through. This palace is very well guarded, doubly so since they've got a second daimyo in there. The only way we can think of making this hit work is if someone managed to walk past the guards without them stopping us. But I don't know if anything less than a party will make that work. A party? Is that all you need? Tobi asked them, cocking his head to the side, like a dog listening to a weird sound. Pretty much, yeah, Sokka said, keeping a straight face. Despite they knew there was going to be a party in the palace, they had to pretend they didn't know about in order to fool both Tobi and Nadar. Then you should have said something earlier, he exclaimed with glee, waving his arms dramatically. Why? The Fire Daimyo will be throwing a dance in 2 days to celebrate the trade agreement between the Land of Spring and the Land of Fire, Nadar explained. Even though he tried to hide it, everyone could hear the snarl in his voice. Wait, hold on, Suki told them, leaning over the table and grabbing the blueprints concerning the entrances to the palace. We could probably make that work. What do you have? Azula asked her. Even though they knew what to say, they were playing it up for all it was worth. We could possibly use the disguise method, but not with the servants. We use fake identities and pretend we're there for the dance. While the rest of us mingle with the crowd and keep an eye out, one could get close and take the spring daimyo out. You mean all of you? That might be a bit hard, Tobi said, taking a thinking pose. What do you mean? We can all get in. Well, what about him? He asked, pointing at Naruto. What about me? He repeated, sounding a little offended. You're wearing a mask. And so are you, he replied in a deadpan tone. My point is that if you're going to try and get into the dance, they might ask you to take off the mask. He has a point, June agreed as she picked up a piece of paper that described the Fire Daimyo. According to this, the daimyo doesn't like any ugly people to be in his presence. His guards are likely to know this and will try to stop you from getting in. Did you guys forget what I can do? He asked in a growl, looking directly at them. What can you do? Nadar asked him condescendingly. Are you a master of disguises? I'm a former shinobi. If he had been hoping that would stop the questions there, it didn't. It just made their employers more interested. Oh really? Asked Tobi. Which village are you from? We might have someone who knows you. It doesn't matter, I left it behind. Oh, come on, which village was it? His voice took on a whiny tone. He snarled. What do you want to know? That I was from one of the 5 great shinobi nations? I wasn't. I was from one of the minor villages and when I got bored I left. That's all there is to it. What rank were you when you left? Nadar asked. I was a genin. So you know the Henjutsu? Obviously, he answered with a sarcastic tone. Is there anything else you would like to know? Where's your headband? Tobi asked curiously. Where's yours? The masked blonde asked back. All right, I won't ask, he said, holding his hands up defensively. But you are able to use the Henjutsu, right? Were you not paying attention? I already said I knew it. Perfect. You guys are hired, he exclaimed, silencing the mostly dark room. No one heard anything, except for the faint hum of the lights above them. That's it. He tells you he knows one jutsu and we're hired? June asked. Oh no, that was just the finishing touch. You guys managed to figure what will go wrong if we try to go over or under and managed to adapt the disguise plan once you heard that there was a dance. All we need to do now is make sure you 5 are dressed up for the occasion. So, how exactly is this going to happen? Sokka asked, trying to stay calm. Both he and the rest of the team knew that if they could get the details, they could alert Jiraiya and the others, giving them a chance to prepare. It's as you said. The 6 of you will disguise yourselves as guests and kill the spring daimyo. Hold on, 6? Azula asked. Nadar here will be joining you. He gestured to the man in question. You 5 will keep watch and will also ensure that he successfully kills the daimyo. I'm guessing that it has to do with that Doto guy from before, Naruto asked, despite already knowing the answer. Yes. It does, Nadar answered with a more obvious snarl. Okay then, is there anything else? Tobi asked, scratching his head. Yeah, there is, June said. How much are we getting paid for this? Oh, right. I knew was forgetting something. He walked away into the darkness, disappearing. All they heard was his footsteps, which soon stopped as well. They started up again, this time with the sound of something being dragged and him grunting comically. And in here we go, he declared as he dragged a big briefcase into the light, setting it down on the ground. He knelt down and opened it up. Pulling the top up as he stood back up, it revealed a good amount of real bills. While the amount would have gotten any single person's attention, Naruto and the others didn't look impressed. In fact, they almost looked offended by the case. "That's it? That's all you're going to pay us with? A single case of cash?" demanded June. "What? No. We wouldn't cheat you like that," he assured her, flapping his arms like he was trying to fly. "Then what in the name of the spirits is that for?" She pointed at the case. "It's an example," Nadar explained. "If the job is successful, you will receive 5 briefcases, the same amount as you see here." He tapped the briefcase with his foot. They all stared at the case and the promise that it held. The case was all but filled to brim with cash. 4 more cases just like that for each one of them would set the amount of cash to a number that would have stuck them dumb if they weren't trying to act professionally. Kami, he wasn't kidding when he said that we would be set for life if we took this job, Naruto thought. It's a very impressive amount, the QB admitted. He was a Biju, and even he was impressed by the amount of money he was seeing. "So, do we have a deal?" Tobi asked. "Yeah, we'll take the job," June said, looking away from the briefcase and the promise it held. "Yay! That's great," he said, clapping his hands with childish delight. They walked through the streets as the sun struggled to rise above the horizon and bring light to the new day. People were beginning their morning routines, whether it was heading to their jobs or opening their shops. The street was filled with people and the air was full of the sounds of feet slapping down on the ground, people talking to one another, and the occasional bird. All in all, it sounded and looked like a normal day in the capital of the Land of Fire. But as they walked, the surrounding people would give them a little room, due to what they looked like and the vibe in the air around them. It was the vibe of "don't piss us off." The pace they were walking at was what some people would have called a little sluggish, others would have called it slow, and left it at that. But they didn't care what other people were thinking of how they walk, they were concentrating on making sure that one foot was in front of the other. They had spent the entire night ensuring that they had gotten the job to take out the spring daimyo, and not getting killed in the process. The fact that an Akatsuki member was involved in the planning confirmed the idea that they were behind it. But at that point, they were focusing on getting to the hotel that June had gotten rooms at. They eventually got there and immediately proceeded to the rooms they had been given. Akela and Nyla again stayed outside. It was spacious enough for them. It wasn't by any means a 5-star hotel, but it also wasn't a hole in the wall. There were 2 separate rooms, one for the girls and one for the guys. There was a single sink and toilet to share in a small room off to the side. They all sat wearily on the beds. June chose to lean against the wall. They just sat in silence, going over what had happened to them during the night. "Hey, Sokka?" said Naruto. "Yeah?" asked Sokka. "Did you and Suki really get married when we weren't looking?" He shook his head tiredly. "No, I just throw that in on the spot. I thought it would help them accept Suki's abilities." "I see." They fell silent again for a couple of minutes, until he took a breath. "Okay, they want us back at the warehouse in 10 hours. We have information that we need to pass on to Jiraiya. Does anyone think we need to send it right away?" No one said a word. "I thought not. In that case, there's only one thing we need to do now." They all shared a look and a nod. "Sleep," they chorused.